This second season of Frieren is wrapped up in a really poignant way, which I think has done justice to one of the series' most impactful themes. The natural world, people, growth, death, and our impact on nature. In some ways, it's making you grieve things that you never lost. It's a tricky topic and one which has a lot of symbolism for us to analyse and delve into a little bit here. Through Frieren's extreme relationship with time, this show is really well positioned to explore the link between people and the natural world, and that the inevitable change, death, life going on can be a mixed blessing at times. It's a beautiful sequence to round out season 2, especially given that so much of the season has been covering material that's fixated on hometowns and a simpler way of life. It's not a theme that Frieren is done with yet, but this beautiful display of nature and the way the anime shot it, that's a good time to look at this theme and all the depth that's there. Frieren's symbolic relationship with the natural world goes a lot deeper. We have a trio of different archetypes which are all symbolic in some way and have a relationship to the environment and even the idea of change. The better world we're all trying to create, even if there's something lost in doing that. So these 3 different groups of species are important for Frieren's relationship with nature. We've got elves who seem content to chill. They're like the flow of the river personified. Over time, they'll very gradually make changes, very gradually affect things. But unless you zoom all the way out to a scale that's difficult for a person to really get, it might not look like they're doing anything at all. They're a river, they're kind of nature. Elves are at home in a less complex time. They seem to have been at their highest numbers before quite as much was built. All that time meant they're really in no rush to industrialize. Their goals are more specific and personal. Generally, I don't think a society of elves would have built as much as we see in the age of humans in Frieren now. And those humans, they're next. They have a shorter lifespan. That inspires them to quickly scold the earth to try and build something immediately. The humans are the white heat of technology, burning to improve the land. We see it often in Frieren. Human accomplishments, human developments viewed as something imposing its will on the natural world, carving itself out. Completely necessary for growth and development. Yeah, for a society to thrive. And like that, the humans in Frieren grow and develop as people at a much faster rate. They are the settlement, the technology. But I don't mean this in a negative way of destroying the natural world. They're symbolically at their best as the statue of a hero in a town square, the desire to create a better world. The whole thing is really gotten across from this sequence much earlier. It's a few panels, frames, and it shows Frieren existing, living her life, while the whole society reshapes nature around her. Or it's a bridge being built that allows a town to thrive, but a long time after the death of one village. Elves are like this. They're slower, more attuned to that natural world. It doesn't mean that development is bad, but something is always lost as much as is gained. A balance between the natural world and wider society is hard to find. In Frieren, there's one other factor impacting that balance, which seems excessively destructive. Oh, and in between elves and humans, we also have creatures like dwarves. Those aren't exactly that meaningful for the things I'm talking about today, but their relationship with spirituality and a middle ground between the two is interesting. They have that longer life, but also a real drive. But the real wild card in the nature and Frieren discussion is demons. Creatures that are natural in Frieren. Well, I mean, apparently they're made of mana, but you know that they exist. And these seem completely detached from the natural world, unable to rise beyond their base impulses. They are often the complete destruction of what has been built. We see it whenever we see a demon. In fact, the anime seems to love switching to these cooler color tones, showing demon fights as taking our heroes out from their normal green and colorful world and over to this cool, dull one instead. Whether that's from trashing a settlement that once had color, covering the world in fog, I mean, that's one way to strip the color, or just the color decisions made in direction. Demons sap color and nature. They're an antagonist, and closeness to the natural world is something that Frieren depicts as inherently positive, moral. So of course the antagonistic force has to be pictured as the antithesis to that, even down to what they're made of. The demons destroy the things that people build. They knock down, they cover the churches in corpses. It's an interesting element to this main conflict in the show. It's not as reductive as natural world good, human alterations bad. It's about finding a balance, one between stagnation and development, one that lets people live harmoniously with nature and still build a better world, because demons are the third factor in this. Without them, it'll be easy to interpret a lot of what Frieren does as resistant to any change. But I don't think that's the point. I think the demons are a big clue to that. Without the humans pushing development onwards, what would we be left with? This unnatural force that is made out of mana would have turned everywhere into this. Death and change is completely natural. It's part of nature that the world will move on. What's important is the type of world you build, which is really well represented in the first half of this week's episode. It's a sequence which ties into the larger themes around death, but also life and the change you can make. Himmel invested in a bridge that allows a community to thrive again after people lost their hometown. It cuts into nature, though. It's really an on-the-nose way of bringing in that theme. It cuts off a journey that would otherwise see a beautiful natural sight by a man-made, well, dwarf-made intervention. You need to build the world you want to live in, or in Himmel's grand romantic way, the world you want an elf to wander around in long after you're gone and she wises up. I think there's a through line to this batch of stories in the Northern Lands, where so many are about nativism, your hometown mattering, losing that, the importance of one existing, of people living connected to nature, and there being something admirable in that, protecting a hometown, restoring it, avenging it. It's been all over. And a link to nature is there in a lot of the hometowns. From the way Genal pictures his childhood with the leaves, to the mining area locals knowing about a rich vein that needs protecting from those who aren't from there. It's always hometowns. I wonder if Frieren's forest home still looks like that. I wonder if humans built over this old, destroyed elf settlement yet. I wonder what it's like to consistently exist with one foot in the past, to always be aware of what's happened to the environment, to return to an area so much longer later that a whole village existing is a surprise to you. I think Frieren's view of nature and developments has made me consider more the memory of structures around me. You can rebuild a village that fell down, you can fund a bridge. If an elf is symbolically like water, they're like nature. They take so long to change. The humans symbolically are heat. The balance comes down to knowing what to protect, what in nature needs it. And where development just needs to happen, where a more nature-adjacent small town can grow into a bigger settlement and potentially lose something. I think the themes here have a lot to say about finding an equilibrium with the natural world. Let's analyze that bridge story a little bit, because it's got a lot to offer symbolically about these themes and such. It is taking place somewhere that this wonder of the natural world. It's allowed these settlements to exist, given great views, and at the same time, it's a mess to live there. You have to walk all the way around to get anywhere. Villagers get wiped out, monsters everywhere. But the canyon is beautiful, even if it cuts people off from help. I think Himmel's intervention is pretty symbolic of the role humans have in Frieren in general, which itself stands in for all of these real human urges to try and make a mark on the world, on a world that turns on and forgets. A human with a particularly strong desire to reshape the world invests in a bridge being built. Now we can cross the canyon, the settlement is safe, people can grow, but we don't get to the wonderful views of the ocean anymore. That's no longer on the path. From the point of view of an elf, the humans are these small-lived creatures utterly obsessed with leaving footprints, with reshaping nature. Even the longer-living dwarf wants to build the bridge. It's very different from the stagnation elves wallow in. Without humans in a party doing the long walk and having the nice view of nature, that was Frieren's first instinct. That's the difference between these groups. And that says something symbolically about our relationship with nature. The collaborative effort of the bridge is focused on more in the anime too, the ability to bring people together. Himmel's investment is a contributing factor to people settling in the area again. A small thing, but one that echoes through people's lives, allows a community in this beautiful place to pop back up. It's a trend we come to in a big way with the next chapter's story, about an economic boom being preserved for the sake of the natural world by someone looking after their hometown. So in a way, Frieren Season 2 has a very sweet ending where people are putting the beauty of nature ahead of an economic boon, where the natural beauty is respect, and nobody puts the value of increasing GDP for the Northern Plateau in front of that natural beauty. It's one of the bigger bits of fantasy I've seen in this series. It's here where the party find themselves in an incredibly expensive market because these crystals are worth a ton. I think it's pretty fun that the price of everything here is higher to accommodate the money they earn mining. Like, this is the equivalent of going to the most expensive supermarket in the poshest bit of town, only it's in the monster-ridden hellscape close to this guy. But anyway, they decide to hunt monsters for pay here. It's very RPG-ish. This whole thing where it gets interesting is after they get their mission. It's to put up a barrier around a large snow crystal deposit. Frieren assumes it's to make sure nobody snakes in and mines it. So season 2 of Frieren has now had such grandiose plots as the distribution chain for bread has been disrupted. And these are the dangers of high-interest loans. What a conclusion a primer on mining rights would be. I find it interesting that the montage around this is focused on the beauty of the local nature, which brings a trend into focus. It's very common for Frieren's montages to feature nature as just as much of a character. It's a core part of its identity at this point, that there's something so symbolic to Frieren and nature, her obsession with the type of magic that's simpler and more in tune with natural life. This has always been there in the background, like the comparison between Frieren's solo elf life in nature and life with humans in flashback, which is largely out of nature in man-made settlements. It's always been there. The natural world is one of the strongest through lines in Frieren. After we see the crystal vein, we get this important flashback of Himmel, that it's enough reason to defeat the Demon King that more people can see it. I think it's a nice thematic ender to a season that's had a lot to do with nativism and nature, and also such a great line to sum up Himmel. Let's do the unthinkable, the impossible, so more people can see a view. But Frieren is accepting of it being cut up, which it ultimately turns out not to be the case. All she was doing was protecting the vein. It's a quest that was even given by cut price Roy Mustang over there, by someone who has returned to their hometown to protect it. There are wonders of the natural world that keep you tied to nature, to the core of existence, and they do need protecting. Humans looking out for each other. That's the net effect of Himmel's travels in the past. These absolute chads are more present than ever. The bridge is built. The dangerous northern lands are a step closer to being tamed. And a lot of it we can trace back to these two parties' journeys. But it was still with an eye to keeping that natural world intact, making those beautiful places more accessible, not erasing them. Himmel's thing with the balance even links us back to his death. That last scene we saw him in was this one, a little journey back through the natural world at the end. I think the nature element has always been here, and it makes this a very fitting place to wrap up the second season of Frieren. Just like the season 1 ending had this tone of the adventure going full circle, this one invokes those other early themes too. Gives a little closure on the characters that elevates it from one random chapter to a fitting ending, and in bringing back Himmel's appreciation for nature, it invokes that theme from earlier that we do have to accept that death is part of life, because the other choice is stagnation. Frieren, at its very start, depicts death as a natural force by making this final journey a stand-in for Himmel's death and cutting right to a funeral. You can't be at odds with any change without accepting stagnation, which is the nature of elves. Sure, left alone they pretty much are stagnation. But the world Himmel is building, the development, like a bridge going up, like a fortress city, like these guys getting the funds to bury the dead again. Like most of the people and peaceful lives we see, none of that is possible without change happening to the natural world. With the age of humans arriving, we're left with progress reigning supreme. But an important part of this series is to remind you that something is always lost. But in looking at some parts of nature, this week briefly has you mourning something you didn't actually lose. There's a lot of the natural world in Frieren. The links to the natural world are often quiet, but here we have her voicing it directly. That it's worth grieving if we lose it, an important resource. It's beautiful, even drawings of it can be really quite beautiful. And that's one of the things that draws me to Frieren so much. I like that bit of it. And in Frieren, that often extends out to a simple way of life in tune with nature. It's often represented by folk magic, a traditional style of living that could be replaced by too much hurry and change, too much commercialization. But we do still need bridges. Ultimately, it's how times change, and elves will need to find a place in that world to survive. I think it's easy to wind up feeling like Frieren here, a little sad that maybe the pace of change is faster than we might personally like. It turns out, in this case, just to be someone protecting the natural beauty. That's something. It's the same impulse that Himmel has despite his desire to change the world. A balance must be struck. Some things deserve taking care of, even if we want to build a better world. It's the kind of theme that's easy to talk about in regards to a fantasy world. I wish we had more of Himmel's attitude in a lot of ways, but this scene was a perfect one to close the year on and leave us yearning again. Hey, thanks for watching. I've got plenty of stuff still to talk about over the coming weeks, so sub if you want to see more. Alright, cheers.